The old mill was originally a sawmill where logs were processed for the new homes that were being built in the neighborhood. It served 5 generations, 255 years. Since 1761, the ownership of the old mill has been only in 3 families. Now it's one of our favorite places to eat. Ralph Waldo Emerson's poem is about the fighting at the North Bridge in Concord, where colonial militiamen were ordered to fire upon British soldiers, thus committing treason. The first British soldier were killed in this battle, hence the shot heard around the world. It was the beginning of the American Revolution. On April 18, 1775, British troops were sent from Boston, Massachusetts, to seize stockpiles of gunpowder and rifles which were stored in the towns of Lexington and Concord, Massachusetts. The king was afraid of a coming rebellion and wanted to disarm the peasant farmers in a surprise raid. Although the raid was not unexpected, but the timing of the attack was not certain. So a team of Patriot spies waited in Boston to warn the colonists of the attack. When the warning was given by lanterns hung in the bell tower of Boston's Old North Church, the silversmith Paul Revere rode by horses to Lexington and Concord to warn the colonist farmers. Paul Revere's capture point is in Lexington. He rode through present-day Somerville, Medford, and Arlington to warn the Patriots along his route that the British were coming. Many of them set out on horseback to deliver warnings of their own. By the end of the night, there are probably as many as 40 riders throughout Middlesex County carrying the news of the British advance. The Hancock Clark House is a historic house at 36 Hancock Street in Lexington. Built in 1738, the house is the only surviving house associated with John Hancock, who lived here for several years as a child. Henry David Thoreau was born on July 12, 1817, in Concord, Massachusetts. He began writing nature poetry in the 1840s along with his friend, poet Ralph Waldo Emerson. In 1845, he began his famous two-year stay on Walden Pond, which he wrote about his master work, Walden. Jerry says, "What's all the fuss about? This is about some guy who lived 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days and wrote a poem." Thanks, Mom and Dad. The food was scrumptious. Quincy Market. This is a historic market complex. It was constructed in 1824 through 26. We also saw Faneuil Hall. This is the site of several speeches encouraged independence from the British. It is referred to as the Cradle of Liberty. Some of Boston's early slave auctions took place near Faneuil Hall and was funded in part by profits from slave trading. In April 1775, Paul Revere had two lanterns hung in the steeple of Boston's Old North Church to send a warning to warn Charlestown, Lexington, and Concord about the British. "One if by land and two if by sea" is from Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's poem, Paul Revere's Last Ride. The Boston Massacre. March 5th, 1770, the British shot and killed several people while under attack by a mob who subjected a British soldier to repeated verbal and physical abuse. The British fired into the crowd without orders, instantly killing 3 people and wounding others. The Boston Massacre took place in front of the balcony, and the site is now marked by a cobblestone circle in the square. On June 17, 1775, the Battle of Bunker Hill, bloody fighting took place throughout a hilly landscape of fenced pastures that were situated across the Charles River from Boston. Although the British won the battle, the casualties inflicted by the provincial soldiers from Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New Hampshire were staggering. The Boston Common held public hangings until 1769 on an old elm tree in the western side of the Common. The tree was later replaced with gallows, or a wooden contraption used for public executions, until 1817. There is a plaque honoring the spot of the great elm tree and the site of the public hangings, which was destroyed in 1876 and honored with a hard-to-find historic marker near the Frog Pond on the western side of the Common. Swimming tests were practiced in Frog Pond. Accused witches were dragged into Frog Pond, stripped of their undergarments, bound, and then were tossed in to see if they would sink or float. Since witches were believed to have spurned the sacrament of baptism, it was thought that the water would reject their body and prevent them from submerging. According to this logic, then, an innocent person would sink like a stone, but a witch, on the other hand, would simply bob on the surface. The victim typically had a rope tied around their waist so that they could be pulled out from the water if they sank, but it wasn't unusual for accidental drownings deaths to occur. Mary Dreier, who was targeted by the Boston Puritans for being a Quaker and is immortalized by a bronze statue in front of the Massachusetts State House, was one of the several women hanged in the Boston Common because of their religious beliefs. The Boston Tea Party was a political and mercantile protest by the Sons of Liberty in Boston, Massachusetts. On December 16, 1773, in defiance of the Tea Act of May 10, 1773, a group of 30 to 130 men, some dressed in Mohawk warrior disguises, boarded the 3 vessels and, over the course of 3 hours, dumped all 342 chests of tea into the water. The Tea Act allowed the East India Company to sell tea from China to the American colonies without paying any taxes, thus undercutting the local tea merchants. When King George III heard the news of the Boston Tea Party, he realized he was losing control of the colonies. King George III said, "We must master them or totally leave them alone." Then the British government passed the Coercive Acts of 1774, which were intended to punish the colonists.
spot here. So let's okay. So you're there.
Where's Trish?
Sitting in the car.
Oh, there she is.
She's
Hi,
down.
Trish.
Okay, I'm gonna
We
take
want
a
to
look
get
first.
Terry's pictures there by your display.
You wanna bring that one, Terry?
Hey,
There's
is
a handle.
all this crap is still ours?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, well, see, it has to go on top of these ramps, man. Oh, Trish is doing a little video of our farewell departure here. This is first load.
Not you, Terry. So guys, wave goodbye. Not you, Terry.
All right, love you. Did you get a picture, dude?
Yeah. Huh?
Did you get a still frame?
Yeah.